All right. Hello, everyone. Hopefully this live is live and running. Hopefully everyone can hear me and see me. If not, let me know in the comments. Welcome to our XC Crafts card session. I'm just going to flip my camera over and then get it a little bit more straightened out. I didn't realize how crooked it was. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so this is the card class that we're going to be doing. It's the Lisa Horton Trailing Poinsettias, I think it's called. Yeah, Trailing Christmas Poinsettia Kit. This is kind of the main card that we'll be making today with the Lisa Horton inks. I'm going to do one with the interference on the black and then as well as one on the white. And then I kind of have some samples as well that you can see. So you will need your die cutting machine, and then you'll also need all your interference inks as well as your regular matte blending inks. I will send out the instructions on Monday. I just didn't have any time to make instructions this past week. It was very busy here at the warehouse. So in your kit, you should get your stencils that coordinate with your embossing folder and die, as well as some sentiments. So we are going to be doing some 5x7 cards. So we're going to start with the white one to create this, and then also this awesome background that I had a lot of fun making. So you're going to want a Lisa Horton. This is the Ultimate 2. So this is perfect to use with all her stencils. If you don't have this, you can still use her stencils. I'll show you how. So I've just got a mat here. And I'm going to take the piece of paper that I will be stenciling on and then my stencils as well. I'm just going to show you how you can do this on yours, and then I'm going to actually do it on the Lisa Horton one just because it is easier for me. So I'm going to take a piece of low tack tape. This is the Studio Light one. And I'm just going to adhere this down. I'm also going to kind of line it up with the measurements as so. And then just stick that down. And then what I'm going to do is add a piece of tape along the bottom, just right along the edge there. And then I'm going to take my stencil out and then kind of line it up where I want it to go. So I want it to fit exactly along the bottom and the side. So you can actually add, if you prefer, like some rulers. So you could tape down some rulers to help line you up. So I'm going to do it right along the edge here. So I could tape down my ruler there, and then do one along the bottom as well. And that way, every time you put this in, take one out, put another one in, you'll have it in the right spot that you need it. So if you don't have the Ultimate tool, this is another way that you can use it. All right, so I'm going to start with the stenciling. And I'm going to be using matte blending inks, but you can also use your interference inks for this. All right, so Lisa did just come out with some new colors. I unfortunately didn't have time to grab them. So the colors I'll be using are from her last few collections. So I'm just going to put a piece of tape to secure this down. Make sure it doesn't move on me, although it doesn't move anyway because this mat is rubbery. I'm just going to tape this sides a little bit. And then I'm going to grab my stencil 1. And I'm going to make sure that when I'm doing this, all my stencils, because sometimes you can accidentally reverse it, you're going to want to make sure that all your numbers are going to be in the same spot. So what I'm going to do is, this is the poinsettia leaf. Or no, this is not the poinsettia leaf. Sorry, these are the leaves of the poinsettia. So these will need to be green. So I'm going to take a blending brush. And I'm going to find my light green. So I'm going to use the color Margarita for this. And then you can also kind of mix the two. I might actually do that. I'm going to mix kind of the two colors because this is such a neon green. Kind of want to dull it down a little bit. And then I'm going to start along the base and kind of work my way up, blending. I do want to leave a bit of like shading. So I want it darker along like one edge, and then I want it to go lighter as I work my way up. And I don't want to go too dark because I am going to be adding some lines onto this. Take them in two colors. Just get a little bit off the brush and then blend. And these are the Lisa Horton stencil brushes. I am obsessed with using these. I don't know what it is. They're like magic. They never leave any marks or anything. So as you can see, I've got it shaded a bit lighter in some areas, darker in others. I find it makes it look a little bit more real, like a more realistic leaf. And then I'm just going to start shading in all the other areas, doing the same idea. This also you could do with the interference inks. I do have a sample. I just wanted to show you guys the blending inks as well. And then in the instructions, I'll let you know too, like what colors to use for what stencil. All right. So I'd say that's about good. I'm just going to move that out of the way. There we go. And then I'm going to take number 2. And this one is going to be the main poinsettia. I normally skip this one, so I'm actually not going to do this one. I like to skip this because it adds the white between the poinsettia leaves. I'll show you one that doesn't have the white. This one you can kind of see I shaded it a little bit more. So I'm actually going to leave this one out just because it's a personal preference. I like to skip that one. So I'm going to skip number 2. I'm going to put my green away. And I'm going to grab number 3 and make sure that my number is in the same spot as my last one. And then I'm going to take Strawberry Sundae. And I'm going to do the same kind of shading that I did last time. So I'm going to start kind of dark at the bottom of the leaf and then kind of work my way out to disperse the color a little bit. And just keep going around. You don't need to skip the stencil 3. I just do prefer to skip it because I just like the white outline. I find it makes the poinsettia leaves kind of pop a bit more. And then just darken the base and work your way up. I also kind of like to darken up the sides, one of the sides as well, and then leave one side kind of nice and light, not too much color. You're not going to want to go too pigmented because you are going to add lines to this as well. And the Lisa Horton blending inks, they are honestly very comparable to the Tim Holtz. They blend just as nicely. They have the same like water bleaching technique that you can do to it if you spritz water onto it. Same with the interference inks. The interference inks you can spritz water on to get that faux bleaching look, which maybe I'll do later for my background. And I always tap my brush off a little bit after I stick it right in the ink just because it can get really heavy-handed as soon as I put it down. I'd rather build the color instead of going heavy all at once. And then I can always add a bit darker if I need to darken up some areas. So really focus it on the center first, and then I'm going to start building the color out towards the ends of the leaves. This is one of my favorite kits from her. I don't know what it is. It's just the poinsettias. They're always so pretty to me. And I like how it comes with a die as well. All right, so I think that is good. I'm just going to move that out of the way. Then I'm going to take stencil number 4. If I can find number 4. Oh, here it is. All right, so this is going to be the centers. So I'm going to do this in my juicy pineapple. Same thing, put a little bit on the brush, take a little bit off, and then we're going to add lines to the center of this as well, so you don't really need to worry too much about shading, but you could kind of go around the edges first and then slowly make your way into the center if you want the center to be a little bit lighter. Adds a bit more of that shading. Oops, I went a bit heavy-handed there. Oh, I'm picking up some of my orange. That's okay. Adding orange to it anyway. And then I'm going to move that out of the way. And then take number 5. And this is going to be the green lines. So I'm going to take my woodland moss and a smaller stencil brush. I'm going to use this nice clean one. And then just get a little bit off. And then again, I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way to the end of the leaf, because I want the bottom to be darker to kind of match with the shading I did. So kind of start at the bottom, work my way up. And then if I want to check to see, oh, I think that's dark enough, I'm going to leave it like that. It is handy to kind of have this in place so you can take it off and put it back down if you need to touch up some spots. A bit more. Need a little bit more on that along the edges. I like this small one because it really gets in these small little areas. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I'm missing one spot. All right, that looks good to me. I've got all my leaves shaded. Now I'm going to take my last stencil, and this one you're going to not want to do all the same color on, and I'll show you why, because we've got our leaves and then the centers. So I'm going to start with the center. I'm going to kind of mix these colors, the juicy pineapple and early sunrise, because I don't want it to be like just orange. I want it to be kind of a mixture of the two. So I'm going to take a smaller blending brush. Again. And then I'm going to start with the yellow and go into the orange a little bit. And then I'm going to take a little tester paper just to see the color and then apply that just to the centers. They look like little stars almost. Just make sure the color is right. And this will add a bit of shading. And I'm going to check. Yep, I can see all that shading good. I just add a bit more to that one. And then we're going to do the poinsettias. So I'm going to go back in with Strawberry Sundae. And I'm going to grab a smaller blending brush. And I'm just going to add color to the leaves. And again, I'm going to start just at the bottom. I'll bring this a bit closer so you can see. I'm just going to start right along here and then kind of build the color out a bit. I want it all focused down at the bottom and then blend it out a little bit. And you want to be careful you don't get it in the center of your flower. You don't want the pink or the red in that. And then I'll definitely check this after. Just keep going around. Heavy at the bottom, and then you're going to work your way out a bit. I really do love the shading that this looks. And you can always add some sparkle to this as well. Like the interference ink has a nice shimmer to the ink, so I like that because it adds a bit more pizzazz. And I love sparkle, so I'm gonna make sure I get it in all the areas. Oh, I'm missing one. I forgot this one down here. I'm just gonna check and see if I'm missing any spots. I am missing a few. So I'm going to go back in some areas. So I'm missing this one, missing this one. I think this one. Okay. That looks better to me. I am just going to touch up 2 more areas because I don't have enough there. And then same with down here. There we go. That is good. I added a bit too much, but that's all right. All right, so that is done. And if you wanted to, you could still go back with your number 2 stencil and you could shade in the flowers. One thing to note is to be careful about this one though, because the center is not covered. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to die cut this. So I've got my die cutting machine behind me, and I am going to grab a piece of this stencil tape because I am going to want to make sure it doesn't move. So I've got my cutting plate, that I'm going to get my die. And then I'm just going to make sure that it's all even. Should have a little bit of white around the outside showing. Just want to make sure that the white is all evenly kind of dispersed. You don't have too much white on one side. That looks good. I'm just going to stick a little bit of that tape down. And I'm going to run it through my machine. Take that out. Pop that out. And look at that. All right, so now we're going to emboss it. So I'm going to take my embossing folder. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab a piece of tape because I don't want this to move in the embossing folder. And I'm going to want to make sure that when I'm placing this in, that I've got the image on the raised part. So I don't want the indented part. I want the image. Wait, I think I'm saying that wrong. Yes, sorry. I want it on the indented part because it's going to push into this. So on the indented part where it's got grooves inside, it's not pushing out. You're going to want the image to face that way. So then you're just going to kind of try and line it up the best you can with all the lines on the embossing folder. Just move it around. And I think I've almost got it spot on. Just keep moving it. Okay, I think I've got it. Now what I'm going to do is just take a piece of tape and just stick that down. Hold that, close that. And then I'm going to grab my, I think it's the heat plate, stick that on, make sure it doesn't move, and I'm going to run that through my embossing machine. Now that that's embossed, open her up, and there we go. She looks pretty good to me. Just gonna peel that tape off. It's sticking a bit, it's okay. Just rip the back a little bit. There we go. So that is that. Now let's work on the background. So I'm gonna move these out of the way. And I'm going to take a piece of paper. So I've already kind of prepped a few pieces here. So I'm going to take, this is a 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. Yeah, 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 of an inch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape, actually I don't need to tape this down. I'm going to take my number 3 stencil and I'm going to create my background like this. So I'm going to take that strawberry sundae color. I'm going to move these colors out of the way because I don't need them anymore. And I'm going to take a bit of a bigger blending brush. I'm going to take this Lisa Horton one as well as red brushes one. I'm going to grab this one as well. Don't need that one. All right. So now what I'm going to do is open that up and I'm going to start creating this background. So I'm going to just stick my flowers down and I'm going to kind of do it like this. So I'm going to start at the corner and then kind of work my way this way. So I'm going to pat my blending brush, take a little bit off, and then blend. And I want this one to be kind of nice and dark. So I'm really going to pack that color on there because I am going to blend some of this ink onto the background as well. And I'm just going to make sure I get all of that. You could tape this down, but I feel pretty confident that my hand's not going to move. Right, so I got that down. Now I'm going to work on this edge here. So I'm just going to maneuver the flower how I want. Try and get kind of most of the image in there. And then same thing. Right, and then I'm going to do it this way. Right, I think that's good there. And then just make sure you're not going off the page because it will kind of mess up your image a little bit. Now that that's done, now we're going to, see I just messed up how I said not to do it. It's not showing too much on camera, but I've got a little bit of a line here. And then what I'm going to do is kind of fill in some of these empty spots. So I'm going to put this flower right here. And then just kind of work my way around. This one that I'm using, it's kind of the one that's kind of got the most flowery image that's really noticeable. So this is kind of the one that I try and kind of focus my efforts on, that this is what I'm going to be using. And then all the other petals will just, if they get on, then they get on, which is okay. So I'm just using that as my main one. And I don't want mine overlapping. So you can kind of see that this is overlapping here. So I'm going to be careful not to go where it's overlapping with another petal. So I'll go around and do the other petals in that area, just not that one. Right, and then I'm going to add that here as well, just on the bottom. I might move it actually a little bit. So I'm going to do it like this, and then I'm not going to shade the bottom down here. Perfect. Now what we can do is add some just individual little petals. So I'm going to focus kind of on this one here. I'm going to use a bit of a more smaller brush so I can focus it a little bit better without kind of getting petals where I don't want it. So I'm going to put just this petal here, and I'm just going to hold my paper down and blend that one petal, and then we'll do one here in the middle, just the one petal. And let's do the edge here. We'll do it right there. All right. So that looks good to me. Now what I'm going to do is I actually do want that color still. So now I'm going to kind of just color in the background to get this red. So you could leave it like this, but I kind of like to make it a bit more subtle. So I'm going to take actually a bigger blending brush just because it's easier. I'm using the Lisa Horton one. And I'm going to focus heavier on the outsides and then bringing the color in. So I want the inside to be a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to make sure my hands aren't leaving fingerprints on my paper. And then just start on the outside. And then once your color starts to lighten up, you can bring it in a little bit more. Same thing here. Heavy on the outside and then bring your color in. And again, this kind of just adds a bit of shading to the background as well, making the center a little bit lighter. And then you can keep going over it and over and over again if you really want to kind of get that definition. But I think that is good for me. Now I have pre-die cut a piece of black. So this is going to be my shadow underneath. Excuse me, sorry, I just had to sneeze. And then I'm going to grab some 3D foam pads. So I'm going to make this raised a little bit. So I'm going to stick some on the back of my colored image. Might be going overboard, but well, put some small ones. There we are. Remove the backing. Right. Don't think I'm missing any backings. And then I'm going to just offset this a little bit. You don't want it too offset that it's kind of like in your face. So I'm just going to ever so slightly offset it a bit. There we go. So you just want it poking through a little bit. You don't want it kind of poking through too much. Now I'm going to glue this right down on the page. You could 3D foam pad it, but I like to just glue it down directly. Let me grab some glue. Oh, this one I think is actually almost empty. This one I know has got a lot. Big bottle. There we go. And then I'm just going to glue it kind of along the edge. I want to make sure I have enough room for my sentiment at the bottom. So kind of right along the edges. I don't want it touching. Just want a little bit of space. So there we have that. Actually might move it a little bit closer to the edge. I'm worried I've ran out of room for my sentiment. There we go. So now I've got my card base. I'm going to stick this on my card base, glue that down. I just used a black card base because I thought it was a nice contrast with the shadow that I created. And this is a 5x7 card base. And then I have pre-die cut already my sentiments. I just used some of the, what's it called? The die cut and bond tape on the back. And then I left my sentiments in here. I'm going to do this one, Happy Holidays. And with the same red color, I'm going to color in my sentiment. So you can kind of see I've already pre-die cut. So I'm going to color it in while it's on the page. So take this. Need Happy Holidays. And I do this because I like the color to match with the color that's kind of mostly on the page. Doesn't have to be perfect though. And I just left my sentiment in here because it's easier to color. All right, that looks good. Actually, I'm gonna add a bit more. Darken it up a bit more. All right, now I've got my holidays and happy already die cut. I'm gonna leave that in the white, and I'm just going to stick this on. So since it's got the tackiness already on it, I don't need to glue it. I'm just gonna make sure that these line up nice. So I kind of do it like letter by letter. Oh, I'm not even on the right one. I'm on holidays and I'm putting happy down. That would help if you were on the right letter or on the right word. There we go. Why isn't this working? Because I'm not on the right one. There we go. Now it's lining up. And then just stick that. We got happy, and then we'll do holidays. This one, I don't know if it cut all the way with my stickiness. It's too sticky. It's ripping my sentiment a bit. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to poke out the centers. Okay. And then same thing, I'm going letter by letter and adhering it down. Oh. This is still the center of my Y is stuck. There we go. It's sticking to my fingers now, all these little itty bitty pieces. All right. Happy holidays. All right, that one I kind of messed up because I got some fingerprints on here. I did end up tearing a little bit of the stickiness off when I was pulling it, so I'm just going to add some sticky specks. There we go. All right, now let's stick that on our card. I'm going to use some 3D foam pads again. And this just adds a bit of dimension, which I like. And then before I stick it down, I am going to line it up to make sure it all fits nicely. So I'm going to start with holidays first. Bottom. All right. Line that up. And then a happy. All right. There we are. So that is the completed card. And now we'll move on to the interference. All right, so I've got to get my black cardstock. Move these out of the way. I'm going to grab this again, my handy dandy tool. All right. Now I need a right. Move these out of my way. All right, so pretty sure fruit salad was what I used. So I'm gonna grab my stencils again. I'm gonna grab stencil number 1. There we are. I'm gonna tape this down a little bit. Take the sides down. All right. Oh wait, I grabbed the wrong inks. I'm thinking I'm doing this on white. I need to look back. I'm getting confused with myself. Okay, that, don't need that. Okay, so I'm going to use the ripe mango. This is going to be for the leaves, the green leaves. I know it looks orange, but you'll see what happens in a minute. So I'm just going to clean off my brush just a little bit. All right. So get my brush loaded up with some ink, and then I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up like I did for the others, my last one. This one is, since it's the interference inks, it does have a lot of mica pigment in it, so it is very shiny, which I like. It's like sparkly almost. So this is my green color. Make sure I get it in all the grooves. And then this is also like blendable. So if you kind of go too heavy, you can kind of just blend it out a little bit. And it doesn't leave any harsh lines. I'll show you up close in a minute that this is not orange. It is in fact green. So on the packaging, you've got the color that it shows up on the white on the left side, and then on the right side of your ink pad is the color that shows up on the black. So you can see the green is on the right, so that means this will be green on the black. All right. So there we have the green, you can see. Now let's move on to stencil. We're going to skip number 2 and go to number 3. And I'm going to use, what one was it? Pretty sure it was this one. Let me try. Yes, so I'm going to use the Sweet Treat. Or actually, sorry, I forget what one I used, and these two are very similar. Lemon Candy. What one is that? No, it's Lemon Candy. Sorry, not Sweet Treat. Lemon Candy, and we're going to do the same thing. Start heavy on the middle and work your way out. I do have a bit of the green left on here. I should have washed my brush off, but it's too late now. And then one thing to note with these is they do oxidize. So if you leave it for 24 hours, it will oxidize, and you'll see that the pigment is much more pigmented. And then if you leave it for another 24 hours, you'll see that it's even more pigmented. And I think it's about like 72 hours, it'll be completely oxidized. So it'll be as pigmented as it'll kind of get. So this won't be kind of an accurate representation totally of what the finished product will look like, but I'll show you my completed sample and you'll kind of get a better vision. And you can actually, the same, like the bleaching technique I was talking about earlier, where you can spray water on it, that you can also do with these ink pads as well. I'm just making sure I'm going back and really darkening up the centers of the poinsettias because I want to have that like shadow shading look. All right, that looks good to me. I'm going to peel that off. Got our nice poinsettia color. Now I'm going to take number 4. And this is going to be the centers. So I'm going to take my fruit salad. Oh, wait. Not fruit salad. I'm just going to tap off a little bit to make sure that's what I want. Nope, not that one. Let me try crushed velvet. Yeah, so I'm going to do crushed velvet. And I'm not going to go too heavy on this one because I am going to add another one on top. This one I'm going to keep nice and light, not too heavy. Keeping it lighter than the other ones that I've done. And then I'm going to take number 5 and I'm going to add some color back into the leaves. So I'm going to take the ripe mango and the pink champagne and mix the two for the leaves. This will give me a kind of a different green look to really get the full effect of the lines that are created from this stencil here. And I'm going pretty heavy-handed on this because I do want it to really pop. And since I did go quite heavy-handed on the leaves already, I want to make sure that this will show. All right. So I don't know if you can see, but on here it is, there's a little bit of pink, but once it oxidizes, that pink will disappear because that's the pink from the white color that will show. So not worried about that. I'm just worried it's going to smudge because I went quite heavy-handed. You can see the lines though on it. And then I'm going to take my last stencil. I'm just going to blow it to make sure I don't smudge anything. And I'm going to do the pink. So I'm going to grab Sweet Treat and Lemon Candy. Hopefully I'm not mixing up the lids. It's very easy to do because they look so similar. And I'm going to do the centers. So I'm just going to stick it. And the reason I use the combination is because it gives you a different color. So you really kind of get that differentiation in the lines than you do in the petals of the flowers. Because if you do mix the colors, they do create another color, which is nice. It kind of gives you a bit more options. And then just doing what I did on the white card, filling in all the lines. And then I can check to make sure that they're showing up. And just keep working your way around. I do really like the interference inks because it gives you that option to color on the black, which I don't know any other ink pad that does that, which is really cool. And the shimmer effect really does look really nice on these. All right, so that I've done all my lines. I can see them all. So now I'm going to do the centers. I do think I want a bit more on this one though. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to do the centers. I'm going to do it in a orangey color. So I'm going to take my fruit salad and I'm actually going to kind of mix it with my crushed velvet. And then just kind of test the color. I do have ink already on that brush. Take some of that off. There, it's giving me kind of an orangey color, which I want. All right. I think that is all my stencils. So there we have that. Now I'll show you the difference. So you've got this one, which I just did, and then you've got this one, which you can really see is a whole lot more pigmented and shiny. So once you give it a few hours to like 72 hours to fully oxidize, then you'll really get to see the final color and how it looks. It looks really sharp once it's all dry. Now I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. Actually, I'm not going to. I'm going to use this sample just because I'm running a little bit low on time. All right, so then we're going to offset it again with the white. So I'm going to put some 3D foam pads on the back of that. Trains. And then same idea that we did for the white, we're going to just slightly offset it a little bit. There we go. All right, now let's create a background. So I'm going to take the, where did it go? Wonderland. I'm going to take the Sweet Treat and create kind of a background with just blending and then spritzing some water. So I'm going to just wipe my brush off a little bit, make sure I've got no other color. And I'm going to kind of focus it where this will lie. So this is going to lie kind of right here. So I'm going to focus my ink kind of right where the image is going to sit. And this will be kind of like a background behind the poinsettia image. I have quite a bit of ink on this ink pad, so I'm taking a little bit off and then just picking it up again. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of look again, see, need a little bit more of it brought down. And just keep blending. You don't want any harsh lines or anything. And then really focus the color right where the image is going to sit and then blend it out a bit. All right, so now that we've got that, I'm just going to test it again. You can kind of see I need a little bit more where this points out a little bit. I want it to kind of look a little bit like a shadow behind. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then just kind of blend it all together. All right, now I'm going to take my spray bottle and I'm going to spritz this. Hopefully it's, actually before I do that, I'm still going to darken it up a bit more. I'm just going to keep adding actually more pigment because I really want these dots to show up. The more I have, the easier it'll show up. Right, and then I'm going to subtly, with just a little bit, kind of go in the areas I didn't place much. Just so there's a little bit of shiny purple all the way around. All right, now I'm going to take my spritzer. I'm going to put the lid on that, and I'm going to just spritz my page. I'm going to test my spritzer first. Don't want too much. And then when you do that, you can kind of see the spot marks now on it. A little bit of the splatter that you've got. Might even add one more. All right. So now that I've got that bleached a little bit, I'm going to glue this down, but I think I'm just going to let it dry for a second. It should be good. And then same placement as my last one. Oh, I'm messing up my background a little bit. Maybe I'll take a wet fingers that just added ink onto my page. Maybe I'll just blend it out a little bit. There, I didn't even notice that was there. All right, so now we'll add our base. I'm just gonna wipe this up a bit. There we go. Okay, now we'll add this to our base. Some glue again. And then it'll just have a bit of a white border around it. You could always like die cut and emboss the background, which is what I did for my other ones. Well, my other one. I'll show you that again at the end. All right. And then I'm going to take my Merry Christmas and I'm going to do it in, what color? We'll do it in this pinky color. I love this color, it's so pretty. Such a shiny, nice purple. And I'm gonna wipe my fingers a little bit so I don't ruin anything else. Now, I don't know what my other sentiments were that I, oh, here they are, Merry Christmas. Okay, I'll take this out. And then I've got to get a little pokey tool to poke out the centers. Why? There we go. And then just place it down. Got Merry, and then we'll do Christmas. This one's bigger, so this one's going to be a little bit more difficult. It's coming out pretty easy, actually. Just because I've got the stickiness on it, the die cut and bond, it's extremely sticky. All right, Christmas. And then we're going to stick some more foam pads on the back of that. Probably would have looked better if I did black die cut for the where I colored it pink. That probably, if I did it black, it may have turned out a little bit better. All right. And then I'm going to stick the Christmas down again first because it is the longest one. And I just want to make sure I've got enough space for it. So stick that down here. And Mary. And then you can add some sparkles, some gems onto that if you wanted to. All right, so these are the 2 cards that we created today. I hope you guys had fun and enjoyed the little class. I will show you, this is what I did with the interference ink. It's kind of washed out a little bit on the camera, but this is on the white with the interference ink, and then we've got some with that. And then I wanted to show you guys again just the embossed, if you emboss a background. Oh, my camera's still washed out. It'll also look really nice. So again, it comes with the stencils, the die cutting, the embossing folder, and then the sentiments. So I hope you guys had fun. Again, these instructions will be sent out on Monday. Fingers crossed I can get them done in time. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day with all these extra classes coming up. Bye, everyone.